Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. I hate to say this is going to be a quickie, but this is going to be a quickie. This isn't going to be a marathon day. It just can't be. It's 20 minutes till 8 right now. And court's open in 20 minutes, and I have to work a double today. So I'm looking for it. I'm looking for OJ right now. We're going to play as much as we can in the short time that we have. Every day can't be a 3-hour stream. Maybe someday. Right? There's Marsha. Marsha. Here we go, guys.
Value is non-existent. And all we have left is prejudicial value. That is the value that it has for the defense in misleading this jury. And that's what the people are required to prevent. And that's what we are seeking the court's order to say, no, you cannot confuse. No, you cannot distort. This jury will get the truth. And this tape is not the truth.
Right. Briefly, Mr. Cochran.
In this,
And I'm going to pause it. Wouldn't it be nice, though, if the judge said, briefly, Mr. Cochran, and Mr. Cochran would say, you know what? I got nothing. I'm good.
courtroom, we've heard so many times how the people are the only ones seeking the truth, Your Honor. We welcome their witnesses. I welcome Lang, as you saw yesterday. I welcome all the witnesses they're going to bring. They can't stand the truth. We are the ones introducing the truth here. We're showing a videotape. Now, the fact that somebody can't see somebody's legs, that's preposterous, Your Honor. The part of a videotape, the beauty is you stand there and you look at it, and you can tell where people are standing. You can see that some of the people are standing in the shrubbery. You can see exactly where they are. That's what a videotape is. I'm sure that in every case, you know, it's amazing. I'm sure people all across America are amazed at this argument. Somebody wants to keep a videotape of a scene out. You know, Judge, this all would have been handled appropriately if the LAPD would videotape these crime scenes like other big city departments do. They'd have their own video, but they don't do that.
So why are you
we have to go and
talking
get the
about
next
it?
best thing we can. We're not trying to hide. They should change their procedure. We're bringing in what we have under the circumstances, and they have to live with that, Judge. It's admissible, it's impeaching, it's relevant, and as to the spatial differences, we can cover that up. There's not going to be a 352 problem when you weigh this. You can understand where the people stand up and make these grandiose speeches that are falling on deaf ears to everybody. I don't know who they're spinning it to. The jury's not out here. And we're not impressed at all. We know who's seeking the truth here. And so the question is for them to talk all they want. As the judge, you understand, you have asked me last night to focus on those 3 or 4 areas. We've come back and done exactly what you've asked us to do. Whatever you asked to do in this regard, we've done it. This is admissible, and if there's any question of confusion, I'm sure it'll be cleared up by both sides. And that's the question. And that's what happened. This is a videotape of what actually happened, brought about because they don't do this at the LAPD like other departments do. It's the best evidence that you're ever going to have in this instance. And it's relevant, and I ask the court to let us proceed with this at this point. You've listened to us very patiently, and it's now time to rule, Your Honor. We've been talking about this since January.
All right. Thank you, counsel.
Your Honor, can I just point out one thing? I wait and stand up.
Well, Your Honor, do we have
If we do have to clear it up, if, as Mr. Cochran says, concede, we have to clear it up by calling additional witnesses, then it's really a 352 issue.
You say clear it up. I said if there's any problems.
We're going to be calling another dozen witnesses to clear up all the mess that's made by the distortion of that video. So it's an undue consumption of time as well.
Fine. Thank you, counsel. Always interesting to hear these arguments. And I don't mean that facetiously because, I mean, it is fascinating since it is a videotape which ostensibly is as accurate a depiction as we will ever get. It is not someone's recollection or interpretation. It's the events as they unfolded. And the court is able to discern from looking at the videotape itself that this videotape was taken at a relevant point in time when the coroner's investigator, Miss Radcliffe, arrives. She appears to be briefed by Detective Lang. We see Radcliffe and Lang at the top of this, what clearly appears to me to be the top of the steps. I then see them move down to within 2 steps above the body of Nicole Brown Simpson at the bottom of the stairs. I observe them to be looking over the body, and Lang appears to be describing to Radcliffe what is there. We do have the benefit of the people's exhibit, which shows the blood on the steps and the footprints, which appear to be avoided. We have Jacobo arrive. We see him check in with Officer Cummings. We see Detective Langs take care to step over the body of Nicole Brown Simpson. He then holds a measuring stick and a ruler, appears to be measuring things. Then we see him step into the planter area. It appears that when he does that, he looks around and takes care as to when he steps. True, you cannot actually see what it is he is actually stepping upon. That is excerpt number 1, and I find that the probative value outweighs the prejudice on that, and I'll allow it. As to number 2, we start with a distance shot, and then it is shows the corners with the plastic sheeting preparing to remove the body of Nicole Brown Simpson, and then the body placed on the cart. And I take it the probative value of that is the fact that the coroner's people are actually standing in the walkway as they spread out the plastic over the cotton sheet and remove the body, indicating that they were walking in the walkway where the blood was, but they're not walking on the steps where the footprints were, and the footprints remain unobscured, so they appear not to have been disturbed. I find the probative value outweighs the prejudicial value. I'll allow that as well. Excerpt number 3 starts with a distance shot of the crowd around the step area. We see Investigator Fung step out of the planter area where the body of Ronald Goldman was discovered, although we do not see that body. We see him come out not wearing gloves, however having a paper bag in his hands. The coroners then appear to spread out another plastic sheet and appear to be moving the second body, which is now out on the walkway. That appears to be Ronald Goldman's body from the sequence of events. We see Lang in the planter area watching the wrapping of the second body, Ronald Goldman, and we observe him to be making measurements and taking notes at the time, and I find that the probative value of this also outweighs any prejudicial value. I'll allow this, however, I am going to instruct the jurors that they are to take into consideration in evaluating these videotapes the angle and any distortion that there might be from using the lenses and shape, the lenses that were actually used.
Thank you.
Let's have the jury, please.
John, there's one other, can we have, let the next step out, there's one other that we should have.
That one I have concern about because it stops abruptly. I want to see the entire tape from which it was taken. Detective Lang, why don't you step outside? Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. With regard, we presented this tape. We think this tape is impeaching. We'd ask the court to take a look at it, and perhaps we can answer the questions if there's other parts of the tape. What it shows...
No, I understand what it shows. What it shows is Detective Lang walking out of the Rockingham residence.
Right.
Walks at his car.
Right? He's carrying the tennis shoes, just carrying the tennis shoes, puts them in the right front seat of the car.
Right, and then
Now,
tape ends.
Right, well, and he then drove, I think the other part, we saw it last night, I think he then, Mr. Blazer can represent, he drove off. That's the point I'd like to hear from Mr. Blazer, but the point is, yesterday, on
I understand the
examination,
point.
he says he put it in a box in the trunk, he drove off. It's impeaching, Your Honor, and you hear from Blazer who had the
No,
tape.
my point, Mr. Cochran, is that the tape that you gave to me this morning to view stops with him placing it on the front seat of his car. He doesn't enter the car. He doesn't start the car. He doesn't drive off. It just ends right
Let's
there.
hear from Mr. Blazer, Your Honor.
You know, I've watched that tape many times, and we had that dub made last night. That's basically the end of it. He drives off, I think, is in the tape, but he doesn't take the shoes and put them someplace else. That's the end of the clip.
Well, out of curiosity, why did you choose not to show that to me?
This was part of a long tape that we took just a small clip out of because we just wanted to illustrate putting the shoes on the front seat. There was nothing significant after that.
Glad to let you see that. You have any questions?
No, that tape is, that entire tape is being copied, even though I think we've already given it to the prosecution. We're making copies of everything to give them another set, as well as to provide you with a set of everything that we have. So that tape is now at a studio being copied.
And the point, if I can say this, Your Honor, with regard to it, it's impeaching, and
No,
I can then...
Mr. Carter,
Okay.
I understand
All right.
the value, I understand why
All
you,
right. I know.
I'm just saying that it
Sure.
doesn't have the impeachment value until he starts up the car and drives off.
Well, I'm sure we can get
With the
that.
tennis shoes still there.
I'm sure we can get that part down here.
If
and-
that's true.
And I'm sure I can ask him, didn't you then put the tennis shoes there and then drive off? But I'm sure we can get that. I mean, if that was just a point where he drives off, is that the representation? He drove off at that point?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's exactly the point. So, I mean, I think that the important part is he said under oath
I
here
understand
yesterday what he said,
I recall
put him
what
in
he
the
said.
trunk. Right.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't become probative until he drives off, does it?
Your Honor, I can,
No, I think when he puts him in that front seat, but it's pretty probative. You didn't tell us that yesterday. But I understand what you're saying, and
Well, if the tape ends with him putting he reaches in and places it on the passenger side of the front
Right.
seat, and then my tape ends.
The court allows us to
Abruptly.
proceed, and we'll do what we can.
All right.
Mr. Fletcher says he'll go, and leave and get it right now.
Well, let's start with the jury with what we have.
Sure, that's fine. He'll be back.
We're not, the court is not allowing it in until we see the entire...
That's correct. All right, Deputy Magnaro, let's have the jurors, please.
Judge, I don't have time for this. You need to hurry it up.
We've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, my apologies to you for the delay in getting started today. Oftentimes, as I have explained to you, there are facts and circumstances regarding the people involved in this case that the court has no control over. And things happened this morning that we were just not able to get started when we had hoped to get started. I apologize to you for the inactivity and downtime. I realize that you would much rather be here participating with us than being cooped up in those little rooms. And I understand that you're there, and believe me, one of the things that weighs heaviest on my mind is knowing where you are and what you're doing. But unfortunately, these things happen, and we've tried to get up to speed and running as fast as we could this morning. And with that said, Detective Lang, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
You're reminded you're still under oath. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Cochran, you may conclude your cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Detective Lang. When we concluded our cross-examination yesterday, I'd ask you some questions about this, what's called a rape kit. A rape kit is basically the ability of the coroner's office to obtain trace evidence, generally in the pubic area of a male or female. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
And so no one has to be raped in order to take a swab of the genital area of male or female. Isn't that correct?
I believe they look for evidence of a sexual assault prior to that being done.
All right. They may very well do that, but they can take the evidence without any evidence of a particular rape. Isn't that correct?
I've never known that. There's usually evidence of such things before that would happen.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you, in order to collect trace evidence, one could check the pubic hairs of a particular decedent. Isn't that correct?
If one were looking for trace evidence, certainly,
Yes. And one could check the cervix area of a female. Isn't that correct?
certainly.
And I think you indicated to us they do this by using some kind of a swab. Is that correct?
It's correct, as well as visual examination.
All right. And then they can make some kind of trace analysis. The coroner's criminalists can do this after the decedent, after these swabs are taken from the decedent. Isn't that correct?
Certainly.
Now, Detective Lang, when you arrived at the scene at Bundy there at 425, you knew nothing about this case except you had two dead bodies. Isn't that correct?
No, I was informed that one of the victims,
Now, I'm talking about when you first, so we understand each other. When you first got there, what did you know?
that one of the victims was the ex-wife of Mr. OJ Simpson.
All right. But did you know anything else other than that?
Just that there was a male victim and a female victim.
So you didn't know anything about the time of death, did you?
No.
You didn't know at that time initially how these two individuals had met their death, did you?
No.
And as part of your investigation, as an investigator, would you agree with your homicide manual that the preliminary examination and investigation is very, very important and very paramount? Would you agree with that?
I agree that all aspects of the investigation are very important.
Specifically, the things you do at the very beginning. Isn't that a fair statement?
Certainly.
And your note-taking is also very important in that regard, is it not?
Yes.
And you would agree that in seeking to charge someone with a double homicide, the issue of the time of death may become very relevant. Would you agree with that?
It could, yes.
And, sir, with regard to a particular decedent, either decedent in this case, wouldn't you think it would be relevant to determine the last individual that either one of these decedents came in contact with?
That's certainly something that would be taken into consideration.
For if, let's assume that in the case of Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, she had a visitor at her residence as late as 10:30 p.m. Would that be relevant to you to know that?
I had no evidence or information that that was the case.
I didn't ask you
If, in
that.
fact, that were the case, I'd certainly want to speak to that person, yes.
Right. The question is, if she'd had a visitor as late as 10:30 p.m. on June 12th, 1994, that would be relevant, would it not?
I would think so.
In fact, you would like to know, or would you like to know, whom she talked to on the phone that particular evening, wouldn't you?
Certainly.
And if you had evidence that she'd had a visitor that evening, as you said, you'd want to talk to that person, wouldn't you?
I would.
Now, the two Simpson children were taken down to the West Los Angeles Police Station, isn't that correct?
That's what I was told, yes.
And at some point, you are aware that one of the officers who were looking after these children, may I finish the statement, Your Honor? This will not be hearsay. May I finish the statement?
May I continue with counsel?
Sure.
Why don't you counsel with counsel? Thank you. All right, let me see counsel.
I don't care if she loses this battle. As long as she frustrated him a little bit, you go, girl. You go. Wow, nobody watched this video. There's a little right here.
Sometime you were aware that officers at the West LA station were looking after the children.
Thank you. Couldn't find it on one of the screens.
And his answer, I think, was, yes, somebody told me that.
All right. Let me just try to restate it, Your Honor. At some point in the course of your investigation, you became aware that one of the officers at the West Los Angeles station talked to the elder daughter, the daughter of Mr. Simpson, Mr. and Mrs. Simpson, at West Los Angeles station. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you know the nature of that purported conversation. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And that conversation took place at what time in the early morning hours of June 13th, 1994?
I don't know the time.
It would be after the children were taken down to the station. Isn't that correct?
I would assume that, yes.
And you read the purported statement, did you not?
Yes.
You sort of exceeded the court's largesse in allowing this.
Certainly, Your Honor. I appreciate the court's largesse.
All right.
And with regard to that, did you then yourself or anyone under your direction go and talk to Sidney Simpson about the
Yes.
statements she had made?
I did not personally, but I had that done.
And who did that?
The Brown family.
The Brown family?
I was informed that the
Well, just a
children
moment.
were...
Let's be responsive if you can. Who in the Brown family? Can you answer that?
Denise Brown.
And when was that?
Sometime after.
I think we have Denise Brown in the
Yes,
audience here. We're going to
she said right
discuss.
here.
Ms. Brown, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave since
Thank
we're
you, Your Honor.
discussing facts and circumstances that involve you in the case. Thank you. All right, Denise Brown is withdrawn from the courtroom.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me see if I understand this correctly. You asked Denise Brown to talk to Sidney Simpson?
Would you like me to explain it to you,
No.
sir?
No, I want you to answer my questions first, if you can do that, please, sir.
I-
Your Honor, that's an objection. That's argumentative. This witness is allowed to explain his
I'm
message.
asking the question.
No,
She
the
looked
question-
mad, didn't she? You mad, bro?
Ask the question, Mr.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Cochran.
Did you ask?
Because they might have to call her as a witness based on what the question is and what the answer is. And if they do, she's not allowed to hear what the answer is supposed to be. she has to go in blind.
Asked Denise Brown to talk to Sidney Simpson.
That's correct.
All right. When did you ask her to do that?
Sometime after learning about the statement.
Well, when, sir?
I don't know when exactly.
Do you know what month it was in?
I believe it was probably in the month of July, perhaps.
July of 1994.
Yes,
All right.
correct.
And were you present when and if she ever talked to Sidney Simpson?
No, I was not.
Did you write a report with regard to this?
No.
There are no police reports at all written with regard to your request and what happened after that regarding this conversation?
Would you like me to explain again?
I'm asking you, can you answer the question? The question is, are there any reports?
I'm trying to. There are no reports.
When you made the request of Denise Brown to talk to Sidney Simpson, did you do that over the phone or in person?
Over the phone.
And did you yourself ever make an effort to speak to either of the children?
No.
Did you ever ask any other police officer to speak to either of the children?
I did not want to do that because of the circumstances described to me by the Brown family.
The question is, did you ask any police officer to speak to either of the children,
I
sir?
did not.
Now, do you have that logged anywhere that you asked Denise Brown to talk to Sidney Simpson? Is that logged in your log anywhere? In any of those 5 books you have there?
I don't believe so.
Did you ever talk with the police officer who spoke with Sidney Simpson on the early morning hours of June 13th, 1994?
I believe I had that done by another officer in checking out her statement to see if it was accurate.
That's not, I ask you, did you ever ask? Just,
I would not have done it then. I had it done by someone.
all right, who did you have it done by?
I believe it was Detective Phillips.
And did you write a report based upon what you asked Detective Phillips to do?
There was nothing to write, no.
There are no reports in
No.
that connection? What was the name of the officer or officers who spoke with Sidney Simpson on the night or the early morning hours of June 13th?
I don't recall. It was the female officer who transported her to the station.
Do you have a report there that would refresh your recollection regarding that?
There's probably a report in there.
Can you find it for us?
Yes.
Please, sir.
You know, I hate to say this. I really hate to say this while he's looking. But I don't know what he's so worked up about right now. But I'm starting to trust him when he gets worked up about something, that something happened. That we're going to hear that the police messed up a little bit.
Colleagues, maybe I can approach you on it. May I approach, save some time?
Why don't you show that to counsel?
But he has had some. He's been infuriating as hell. But then when you find out why, it's like, oh, wait. He shouldn't have done that.
You may.
I'd like to place before you, sir, Los Angeles Police Department continuation sheet form 15.09. And so since we're referring to this, should I mark this in to that point?
I think you're just using it to refresh his recollection,
Yes,
correct?
at this point.
All
All
right.
right, very well. I'd like to place this before you and ask you if you would read, why don't you read the last three paragraphs and see whether or not that refreshes your recollection regarding the name of the officer who spoke to Sidney Simpson in the early morning hours of June 13th, 1994.
Yep, they use it. He looks down at it all the time.
Okay?
Have you now read that?
Yes.
And does that refresh your recollection of the, as to the name of the police officer that you had in mind who spoke with Justin and overheard a conversation between Justin and Sidney that night?
I may have missed that part. The officer's name was there?
Let me, maybe it's not in those paragraphs.
No, I didn't see the officer's name there.
Why don't you start? Start with that paragraph.
I'm sorry, I do not see the officer's name. Okay.
All right, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And what is the name of the officer who spoke with Sidney Simpson and overheard the conversation between Sidney and Justin?
Objection, this seems back is not evidence.
Sustained.
Well, let me rephrase it. What is the name of the officer who spoke with Sidney Simpson?
Officer Vasquez
And is that a male or female officer?
is female.
And it's an officer in West Los Angeles?
That's correct.
And is that the same officer that you asked Phillips to talk with at some
Yes.
point? And do you have any other reports in connection with anything that was said to the children other than this page that I've shown you at this point?
No.
Did you make more than one request to Denise Brown? Strike that. Did you request anybody else in the Brown family to talk to either of the children other than Denise Brown?
The recollection is that the request was made to the entire family.
All right, and that Denise Brown stepped forward? The family chose her?
When I made the request, Denise
Can you just
Brown,
answer that? How did Denise Brown end up being the one who was
Well-
appointed? Do you know that? Did you ask her?
I was going to explain that.
Well, I'm trying to get you to just answer the question.
Objection, Your Honor, he's allowed to
Wait,
explain if he needs
wait,
to.
wait.
Matt, ask the question.
No, but your question, he was allowed to answer the question.
Trying to.
Marcia, love, you get to cross-examine him. Calm down. You're fine.
Ask a specific question so I can get a specific answer, Your Honor, an answer that's not a rambling, long answer. So
Why don't you
may I
rephrase
ask
the question
again?
then?
Yes. Did you ask Denise Brown to talk to either one of these children? Yes or no?
Yes.
And was that after you had asked the General Brown family to talk to the children?
I believe the first request was to Denise Brown.
All right. And as near as you can tell, that was in July of 1994. Is that right?
I don't have a very accurate recollection of when that was. It was shortly after reading that report.
All right. And when you say that report, you refer to the report that I have in my hand?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, I'd like to mark this report, at least at this point, as Defendant's Nixon order.
All right.
Defendant's 1042.
1042.
Counsel has seen it, Your Honor, at this point. Now, in the course of your investigation, do you know who Faye Resnick is?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of the name Faye Resnick in the course of your investigation?
When I learned that Faye Resnick was a friend of the victim, Nicole Brown Simpson.
In the course of your investigation, did you learn that Faye Resnick moved in and started living with Nicole?
Sustained.
Ask him.
Sustained.
Did you learn, in the course of your investigation, whether or not Faye Resnick moved in with Nicole Brown Simpson on Friday, June 3rd, 1994? I'm asking, did you learn that?
Sustained. Sustained.
In the course of your investigation, did you ever ascertain whether or not Miss Nicole Brown Simpson had anyone who lived with her in the month before June 12th, other than the children?
I had heard there was someone living with her, yes.
All right, you heard that in the course of your investigation?
Yes.
And did you pin it down and find out that someone had actually moved in with her in the month of June of 1994? Did you ascertain that in the course of your investigation?
That was information that I did receive, yes.
And did you find out at some point in the course of your investigation that Faye Resnick moved in with Nicole Brown Simpson on or about June 3rd, 1994? If you found out.
Overruled.
Same objection. You're saying no foundation?
Overruled.
That is what I had heard, yes.
And did you verify that?
I personally had no way of verifying that.
Well, did you ever talk to Faye Resnick?
I did not interview her. I believe my partner in the district attorney's office interviewed Ms.
All right.
Resnick.
Well, who's your partner?
Detective Van Etter.
All right, and as such, he is the co-lead investigator in this case, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And did you not find out,
Objection. Hearsay.
may I finish the question?
Yes.
Did you not find out in the course of your investigation that in truth and in fact, Faye Resnick became a resident at 875?
Let me see counsel this side by side.
And I don't want to, but I have to. That's as far as we can go today. I got to. I have to stop. I don't want to, but I do have to. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm sorry it was such a short one today, but you know, we had a lot of long ones, so one short one isn't going to kill us. Or maybe it will. We'll see. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe not. Maybe this will be too much for all of us. No, I wish, John. It's not. I would never, I don't really get into April Fool's jokes. Never joke like that. I hope you guys have a great, great, great day. No stream tomorrow. So, I'll see you in 2 days. Bye, guys.